Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. So this video marks the 300th video that I've uploaded. So that's great. And thank you, my loyal subscribers and viewers who come back again and again every week to see what I have to say. Thank you. Right, so today we are going to go into the topic of relationships because it's a question that comes up again and again. And then I have another question to answer, but I also have an announcement to make at the end, which I'm very happy to be able to announce. So stay with me and let's go straight into the first question. Can human design determine if my relationship is a good match? So this is a question that a lot of people ask, how can human design help me in my relationship? Well, there are two questions I would ask to that questioner is, one, what you consider a good match, and two, what you consider a relationship to be. So a good match in terms of the way a lot of people would think about it would be there'd be compatibility. In other words, that, you're quite similar and you get on really well and there's no major issues. But it depends what's going on. The other side of it is, what is the relationship about? Ra often talked about it depends on how you enter into a relationship to how it's going to play out. So the beginning of a relationship is very important. And when you think about relating and you think about the solar plex, because after all, the solar plex center has an urge to merge, and the solar plex center has three streams going into it from the root based on need. Do you come together in a relationship because you need them? Do you come together because it's the passion there, in the individual channels? Do you come to a relationship because there's a desire to experience something new and to share that with others? So it depends really about your own chart to what is going to draw you to another person. And then we've got to consider, well, what is this about? When we consider that what is open in us, what we do not have in us, is going to be very attractive to us when we meet it. It's something different. It's something new. It's something that can be quite overwhelming and amazing. But is it good? Well, that depends on where you're at in terms of your ability to socialize and be in relationship. If you haven't had much connection with other people and you're feeling very unsure of yourself and uncertain of, what you can bring to a relationship, then perhaps you need a relationship where you will come into a position of more strength in that. Now, that can be through being able to get on really well together and to be able to talk together and talk things out and see where healing needs to happen. Or it could be that you're with someone who has a very strong energy and it's overwhelming, where you are forced to stand up to them. And in doing so, you become stronger in yourself or not. And when we're talking about relationships, a good relationship, in my view, and in terms of the wheel of human design, is a relationship where you can both grow together. So a bad relationship would be if you're in a relationship and you're not growing, you're not expanding, you're not building your character, you're not utilizing your skills and your innate difference and manifesting that in the world. And the other thing to consider is about relationship. It's really about the experiencing of being with another. When you're on your own, there's no one to disagree with you. You're always right. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. When you're in a partnership, well, they may disagree. They may see another perspective. In fact, they will see other perspectives that you cannot see. And that can end up in an argument where you make your standpoint and they make their standpoint and they argue this way and you argue that way. Or it can be something that is more subtle. One of the viewers fairly recently sent in a question about their relationship. and they're within a relationship with a tribal person. So with a tribal person, there is all this snuggly wuggly, you know, this kind of, you know, snuggling up, nestling into the other, which if you're not a tribal person, it's different, but it can also bring out the caring in you. It can bring out the responsibility that you have to that other person while you're with them. It can teach you where you are strong and you didn't know you were strong. And that's needed in order to be with someone that you really love. So you can grow in that, even if it's in a different circuitry. But at the same time, if, for example, in this particular circuitry, you're in a relationship with a tribal person, you know, they regard this as a real bond, and a lot of them want a long-lasting bond. And a lot of those bonds are born out of need in one way or another. There are so many ways of looking at it. So if they need your attention a lot all the time, and you're not the person for that that's available for that, well, then it's not going to work. If you have the similarity, if there's too much compatibility, well, you can recognize yourself and the other because they have the same channel as you, for example, although often the lines are different and there will always be movement for growth within that. But at the same time, if it's too much compatibility, it can get very tedious. It can get rather boring. It's like, you know, relating is relating to something different often. And one way of looking at relationship, as a very wise projector once said to me, was it's all about stepping stones, Richard. You know, you're with that person, and you know it comes to an end one way or the other, but you've grown in that, and then you move into the next relationship with that experience of being able to relate, and it will be different because the other person is different. When you're considering the nature of relationship as experience, it's also about what you commit to. And to be committed to the relationship means that, you know, you're going to go off on an adventure together and share together. And that relationship doesn't come to an end until you've really understood what it's all about. And you can't really understand what a relationship is about until it's over. Now, that can come by, you know, a period apart for some reason. They go to another country for work or whatever, and you get to really see what it's like to be on your own again, what you miss about them, what you're pleased that you've got your own space again. You know, it may be this different movement of your relating to the very idea of relationship that comes. So there are many ways of looking at it. Yes, human design can certainly help you look into the way that two people will come together. But don't always think it's about let me get a good match, because sometimes a bad match makes you stronger, teaches you the lessons you need to know for your own ability to stand on your own feet when dealing with other people, and perhaps from dealing in the world. Because after all, the other side of relationship is they are going to teach you things that you didn't know, and no one else would teach you. You know, it can be very useful. You can grow in your ability to be able to do so many more things, to see so many other different perspectives that would never, ever have occurred to you had you been on your own. So that's what I would say. If someone has a homogenized idea of a good relationship, then they need to really look and see, you know, what is behind that in them. The other thing to consider is, have you done your own inner work? And how much more work is there to go? And have they done their inner work, or are they blaming you for everything that goes wrong? You know, where are they in their process? Where are you in your process? And the other thing to consider is time. You know, if there is a good gelling and you're both learning together and enjoying each other's company most of the time, there's always going to be conflict in a relationship. That's something that's in the mechanics. There's always going to be confusion in a relationship. But over time, those things begin to settle down. You don't take any notice anymore. You know, it's certain things where the triggers don't work the way they used to work. And certain things begin to drop. And then it's just about the fact that you really get them and they really get you. If a relationship has gone for a very long time, it can be very special. But what relationship will last the test of time? That's something that human design cannot answer you, because it will depend upon you and it will depend upon them. And it will depend upon both of you together when you encounter something that is very unexpected. You know, what really comes to bear in a relationship is where there's some major crisis of some sort. You know, do you stand up for each other? Do you support each other? You know, are you aware of the other in this crisis and want to do something about it, you know, or not? So my view on that question is basically the question needs to be considered more. I mean, relationships, partnerships often begin through chemistry. You know, the electromagnetics, you know, the sparky side of it, the exciting side of it, the newness of it, the energetic between the two of you that feels very special. But that's a chemistry. That's a chemistry to get us to procreate, to continue the species. It's not something that necessarily lasts all the time. Although I do know a couple that have been together for, I don't know, at least 35 years, and they have their date night every week, you know, no matter what's going on. It's insisted upon by one of them. Neither of them are emotionally defined, but they define each other through the 4130. I find that very interesting, the way they brought that into the relationship. So there's so much to learn about yourself and the other when you're together in a relationship. What you take in, what you learn, is also something that will help you dealing with other people. So there's all kinds of depths you can go into. But to have it on this thin surface level of, is it going to be a good match? Well, that's a kind of impossible question. Anyway, that was a kind of a breadth answer, and I hope that's been useful to you. Now, our next question comes from 5Cap, one of our regulars. Regarding major individual cycle changes, such as the Uranus opposition, Saturn returns, etc., how early do humans begin to experience the effect and influence before the transit is actually conjunct to the chart placement? Before the second part of your question, I'll just answer that one because it's a quick answer. It's around 3.5 years before the cycle actually kicks in, when you're beginning to feel the effects of it upon your life and seeing the weather beginning to change. There's a transition period when you're looking at these long cycles. Now that so many humans are living so much longer than those in initial astrological eras, where it appears the second Saturn return was the last big cycle change in a human life, do you feel in all your research and HD experience that there are other major transit events post-age 60 for humans to be aware of in the modern age? Well, thank you for that question, 5Cat. I'm sure it's a question that many people have thought about, and it's really an astrologer area. And of course, you can go and have a look at any transit in the human design software. So if we look at what's post 60, between 60 and 62, there's the Uranus square closing cycle, getting rid of routines that no longer serve you. Uranus bringing with its unusualness a different stage of liberation. You've also got the Jupiter returns that come again and again every 12 years, so at 60 and at 72, etc. And this is wonderful because this is like a new cycle of expansion. evaluation of, what you think and how you regard the world. There is this movement on this growth of wisdom that can be highly beneficial through Jupiter. And that's always a lovely one to look at, whatever age you're at. There's the third Saturn square that comes in around the age of 79, 80. And Saturn is about structures, it's about limitations. So here it's kind of getting into the limitations of the aging body and coming to terms with it. Finding a new way to structure your life according to it, or according to what's going on with you physically. Or it may be to do with the way that you live or where you live. Saturn can also bring in those things about you considering at that age, well, what is my legacy? What am I going to leave behind? What am I going to get rid of? Beginning to prepare to let go of the world in a way that happens as you begin to age. I mean, not necessarily let go of the world completely. I know people in their 90s that still have this incredible love of life. And so it's not so much letting go of life, but it is letting go of the structures and seeing where the structures need to be strengthened and where they can be dropped altogether, where they are just limitations. We have the Uranus return at the age of 84. And this can be a huge burst of freedom, and freedom from the social etiquettes and, the way that people move in the world. You don't have to be bothered about all that so much when you're 84. It's like, no, that doesn't matter to me. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they want me to do. I'm not getting involved with that. It doesn't matter. By that age, you have accumulated enough wisdom and enough experience that it really you can see what really is important to you. Many astrologers will say, well, this is a real entry into elderhood and to a spiritual perspective and a spiritual wisdom that you can share with others or show in the way that you live your own life. And around 87 to 90, you get your third Saturn return. And that really brings in a kind of a looking at what your legacy is, looking back on your life, looking to see, what you've been through, what you've learned, what you can share, how it's molded you. What are you still carrying that you haven't resolved? This final overview of your whole life, and just coming to terms with that within the Saturn framework. So thank you for the question, 5Cat. I hope that's been helpful. And now for a big announcement. At least it's big for me. I've been getting ready for the professional analyst training that I'm due to start on September the 3rd. And I've been working on the videos and I've been really enjoying it. I'm kind of reimagining the whole way I'm going to teach it again. And it's a lot of fun, getting my teeth into something, getting my teeth into the details, creating new diagrams, thinking about things in new ways. I'm having so much fun with it. So for those of you who have done the foundation courses and you fancy join me on a real deep journey into the techniques and learning the skills of being able to zero in on exactly how to describe things in your own words, aligned to the truth, there is about 2 weeks left if you want to enroll. And that will be quite a course. That will be quite a course. So yeah, I just really wanted to share with you my enthusiasm of like getting into that again. It's like, yes, it's time. I'm ready. And there's a lot more to be said, and there's a lot more I can show now. It's been an interesting preparation time. So I hope you've all enjoyed that, viewers. And if you have, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you again for the 301st video very soon. Bye for now.